Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Dallas Social Toastmasters. This is January 28th of 2021. Just a couple of notes. We've got all of our players ready for tonight's meetings and roles are assigned, and everyone has communicated goals back and forth. A couple of quick things with regard to how things will go. Obviously, I mentioned we are doing a recording tonight, so hopefully you're okay with being recorded. If not, you will have to either be quiet or you'll end up on camera for sure. With regard to navigation, most of you are familiar with Zoom, but we do have a few guests just in case. If you happen to be on a PC, you will notice that there are some windows up at the top that have individuals' videos in them. If you hover over them, you will see as a dot, dot, dot. You can actually click on the dot, dot, dot and pin that person to your window if you need to pin somebody permanently. Also, there's a view button to the right of all of that, basically upper right-hand corner. The view button allows you to select either speaker view, where the speaker will be brought on screen in the larger window, or the gallery view where you will be able to see many of us at the same time. Roughly with 11, I think you may be able to see all of us. That may pop one or two people onto the next screen. I'm not sure. It depends upon the size of your screen, probably. Also, the only other thing I'm going to mention is if you are on a PC or Mac, you can also probably stay on mute most of the time and just hit the space bar to get yourself back off of mute. You can try that and see if that works. When I say hit, it's probably hit and hold the space bar to get off mute. And then when you release it, you'll go back on mute. If that doesn't work for you, of course, you can always click it to put yourself back on mute. We try to stay on mute for the most part. And you'll see people do a lot of this instead of applause because, well, applause isn't going to make it on mute. With that, I would just like to again welcome you to our meeting tonight. And with that, we will go to our Toastmaster. Oh, let me do a quick sharing. I did a little bit of it right before the meeting. Let me share the agenda real quick. Our website, of course, is DallasSocialToastmasters.com. And from DallasSocialToastmasters.com, you will find three columns: guests, members, guests becoming a member, and member section. Under the third column, member section, you will see the current agenda as a link. Current agenda as a link will bring up tonight's agenda so that you can follow along with all of the roles and who everyone is. Just a quick note, if you are a guest, you are invited to participate in voting tonight as well, because you are affected by what you hear as well as anybody else. So pay attention and feel free to vote when given the opportunity later in the meeting. With that, let's go to our Toastmaster for the evening, Karen Lee. Karen.
Tonight, the theme of the meeting is desserts, and I chose to mainly focus on the history of desserts and the back when the desserts, or long before desserts became popular, dried fruit and honey were the first sweeteners for desserts. The production of sugar made desserts a lot more common. Now, custard was one of the first desserts. Apple pie became a dessert in 1300s, and gingerbread was a dessert in the 1400s. And in Europe, the meal began with the desserts. At this point in the meeting, I'll have the president go ahead and make remarks. Mark, you want to go ahead and make your remarks at the beginning of the meeting?
Yes, just want to welcome our guest, Dmytro Kusenko and Lynn J. We appreciate you joining us. And later on in the meeting, in our business meeting, we'll get to know you a little better, just find out a little more about you and what brings you to visit us. But at this point, just enjoy the meeting. And I'll turn it back over to you, Karen.
At this point in time, I'll go ahead and introduce the duty holders and let them give a summary of their duty to explain it to us. The timer, Mark Schroeder.
On mute, sorry. Marcia is actually here though. Well, I say that. Marcia, are you here?
I am. I'm here. I got it now.
You want to let
Okay.
Marcia go ahead and take that?
Marcia, go ahead and take your duty as timer.
Oh, okay. Thank you, Madam Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, and welcome guests. As timer, I will be helping the speakers practice expressing a thought within a specific time. My duty during this meeting is to time prepared speeches, table topic speeches, and speech evaluations. The green card indicates a minimum goal. The yellow card is the target goal time. The red card is the maximum goal time, and you will have 30 seconds to finish up. For a 5 to 7 minute prepared speech, I'll show the green card at 5 minutes, the yellow card at 6 minutes, and the red card at 7 minutes, and you'll have 30 seconds to finish. For table topics, each speaker is encouraged to speak for 1 to 2 minutes. I'll show the green card at 1 minute, the yellow at 1 minute and 30 seconds, and the red card at 2 minutes, and you'll have 30 seconds to finish. For evaluations, you have 2 to 3 minutes. The green card is shown at 2 minutes. The yellow at 2 minutes and 30 seconds, and the red at 3 minutes, and you'll have 30 seconds to finish. If you speak under the time or over the time by more than 30 seconds, you will be disqualified and will not be eligible for acknowledgement. However, for table topics, you must reach at least 1 minute. No grace period for that. I will report the qualifying times when called upon throughout the meeting. Thank you. Back to you, Madam Toastmaster.
Thank you, Marcia. The next duty holder is Dagan Newland as a posture bell. Want to give us your summary of your duty, Dagan?
All right, so obviously posture bell is a little bit more difficult during the Zoom times because most of them are sitting down, so don't get to see too much of the posture. But what I do see when you do bring your hands up, I'll be looking for anything that does not fit with what you're speaking, even like scratching your head, or if you have glasses, messing with glasses, or anything like that that disrupts from your speaking. I will take note of it and give my report at the end of the meeting. Back to you, Toastmaster.
Okay. Thank you, Dagan. Our counter is Lee King. Will you give us a summary of your duty, Lee?
Yes, my job for this evening will be to listen for filler words such as ums, as, so's, you knows, and at that point, I will give a report at the end of the meeting. Thank you, Madam Toastmaster.
Okay, thank you, Lee. Our vote counter is Rob Giles. Will you give us a summary of your duty, Rob, and also grammarian?
Thank you very much, Madam Toastmaster. As a vote counter, I'm here to both tally votes and to collect, well, when we're in an in-person setting, I would collect comments for individuals throughout the meeting. I'm here going to tally the votes of 4 different things, hopefully, and that would be prepared speakers, table topic speakers, evaluators, and finally, the best of the big 3. The best of the big 3 is our Madam Toastmaster, our Mr. Topic Master, and our Mr. General Evaluator. So those are the big 3, as we call them. And I will take votes throughout the meeting when called upon by those big 3. and you will be able to send me in private chat who you're voting for each of the voting situations. If there is a tie, I will be the deciding factor. I will be the tiebreaker. Otherwise, I will not cast a vote. However, I will not announce that there was a tie. As your grammarian, I'm here for two things. One, to keep track of your grammar. Perhaps look for some interesting or unique phrases or words that you might be using, and check to see if you are using grammar correctly. Perhaps there's some bad or egregious use of grammar, and I may be able to catch that hopefully and let you know so that you can work on that. And I will announce what the word of the day is now. And the word of the day is insouciance. Insouciance. You can see there the pronunciation. It is a noun. And what does it mean? Well, it means lighthearted unconcern or nonchalance. Lighthearted unconcern or nonchalance. Insouciance. During table topics, you will see it up here above me, maybe even before then and after then, but for sure at that point. And you are required to use that during table topics if you want to win as the best table topic speech. So keep that in mind. That goes along with timing, but word of the day. And I will look for it and hopefully hear it at some point other than during table topics. So please try to incorporate it. Again, insouciance. And again, it means lighthearted unconcern or nonchalance. Back to you, Madam Toastmaster.
Thank you, Rob. Let's see that. I read this afternoon that one of the most common desserts in the United States are s'mores. And in all of the desserts that were listed, the s'mores was the only dessert that I had ever tried, and these were supposed to be most popular all over the world. If you haven't had s'mores, they're 2 graham crackers they're usually made on campfires, open fires. So it's 2 graham crackers and then squares of Hershey's chocolate and the marshmallows that are melted. So it's like kind of like a candy sandwich or dessert sandwich. We have 2 prepared speakers tonight. Our first speaker tonight is Rob Giles, and his time is 6 to 8 minutes. Are we ready? To speak or not to speak?
You want to ask? I have an evaluator.
Introduce his evaluator. His evaluator is Lee King. And if you will give us his objectives, Lee, please.
Yes. So Rob is giving us a speech tonight with the purpose of I'll just read this. The purpose of this speech is defined by the member. The member may present a well-organized, well-supported speech on any subject. The member completing this speech may be presenting on any topic. She may be speaking to fulfill a Pathways project or another topic. Specific objectives, the member will present a well-organized, well-developed speech. The speech may be humorous, informational, or any style of his choice, and this speech should not be a report on a content of a Pathways project. And his time is 6 to 8 minutes.
Okay, Rob Giles, to speak or not to speak? Rob Giles. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Madam Toastmaster. How many of you would want for Toastmasters to say, we're no longer using madam, we're no longer using Mr. Those are gone. From now on, we are just going to say person Toastmaster or person topic master. It's an interesting thing. Sounds kind of strange, doesn't it? And the reason that I bring this up is because something is going on in our country. And I want to ask you a couple other questions that you may want to just think about. I'm not expecting answers back, but do you truly believe that we can truly be free without the freedom of speech? And might you believe that freedom of speech is directly or indirectly under attack? Well, for myself, I believe that yes, it is under attack. You can call me a conspiracy theorist. That's fine. I have an insouciance about this. That is about your comment, if you want to choose to call me a conspiracy theorist. I believe that it is under attack. And I believe that, no, we cannot have a truly free society if we have no freedom of speech. I bring this up because there's a few things that are going on in our country that I think that a lot of people are at least partly aware of, if not fully aware of. And maybe you're taking this in an insouciance way. I'm not sure, but hopefully you're a little bit less by the end of my speech tonight. I want you to consider a few things. First, hate speech. None of us like it. I don't think that there's anybody in this room, and probably 99% of Americans, if not more, would say that no, you should not say hateful speech, hurtful speech. But I'm here to tell you that I believe that same sentiment. I do not believe that it's right to take away that ability for a person to say those things. And again, doesn't mean that I encourage those people to say those things, but I believe that it's their right under our freedom of speech to be able to say those things. Because if we start to dissect that, who determines what is hateful? Who determines what is hurtful? What might hurt you doesn't hurt me. What might hurt me may not hurt you. So is it whatever anybody's feeling? Who decides? That's pretty vague, isn't it? It's a pretty vague concept. But who's going to determine what you can or cannot say? We live in a very sensitive society today. And I'm not saying that some of it isn't warranted. However, I believe that you cannot have, whether it's government or big tech, determining what we can or cannot say. And I bring this up for big tech because I think that we've all heard about Twitter pretty much banning former President Trump's Twitter account due to his rhetoric being incendiary, insightful, whatever it might be. Whether you believe that or not, it's an important point to look at. Because at this point, he's a private citizen. How many of us, or how many of perhaps people that you know, or at least people that possibly follow you on Twitter or follow you on Facebook, possibly have gone through and actually said something similar, hateful, insightful even? Have their accounts been thrown out the door. It's a situation where if all of these big tech social media companies start to do that, then it should make you wonder, what is their purpose? I'm all for private enterprise exercising their business as they see fit. However, they are allotted certain rights by the way of our government. So the question is, are they a publisher? In which case they should be responsible for anything that goes on their sites. Or are they a public forum? In which case they wouldn't be held responsible, but yet they should not dictate what should or should not be put on their public forum. YouTube too. So these are things for us to look at, things to consider. This is a slippery slope. Recently, in our government, there was a bill that was proposed that says that while in Congress, I don't know if it's the Senate, maybe it's one or two or both, but when you're in those halls, in those buildings, or in that room, you cannot say mother. You cannot say father. You cannot say son. You cannot say daughter. You cannot say mother-in-law. You cannot say father-in-law. You cannot say second cousin. To me, that's pretty preposterous. And not only preposterous, but what's the point of that? Instead, you have to say parent or child. Parents-in-law. It's pretty crazy. It's almost like a movie that came out a long time ago and was remade again in 1984. And you may have read the book or seen the movie. It's called 1984. I recommend that you look at it, watch it, read it. We are on a slippery slope. Keep your eyes open, your ears listening, and try not to be so insouciant about this. Back to you, Madam Toastmaster.
Thank you, Rob. One of the things I read during my research was that when sugar became more common, it was mixed with a type of gum. And the people that made sculptures were actually able to sculpture works of art using sugar and this other ingredient. So what was at the time, the people said that it looked like, the sculptures looked like porcelain that were made out of this sugar. It's hard to believe that you could make a work of art out of sugar because it dried so hard. In the history of ice cream, in the beginning, ice cream was first eaten in China in the 600s, 618. King Tang of Shang had 94 ice men, made ice cream from buffalo milk, flour, and camphor in the beginning. And another type of ice cream was also made in China around 200 BC with milk, a milk and rice mixture that was hardened in the snow. Our next speaker is Mark Sims, and his evaluator is Mark Schroeder. Mark, will you tell us about Mark Sims' objectives for his speech?
Certainly, Karen. And another form of ice cream was soft serve, along with chocolate, most recently eaten by Mark Schroeder. Sorry, I could not resist. More ways than one. All right, so Mark has got a speech tonight. He is working from the a humorous speaking manual, or at least this is a humorous speech. I'm not sure if it's just part of a specialty manual, come to think about it, but it is a humorous speech. His objective for the evening is to determine his style of humor and to apply it to a speech that centers around some central message. Couple of notes on the project. He is working to develop his ability as a humorous speaker and to better understand his own sense of humor. This should, of course, be a well-organized speech and not a report on the content of the project specifically. So it is supposed to be something that uses the guidelines from the project toward a humorous speech. This time it's going to be 5 to 7 minutes.
And Mark Sims is our president of our club right now. He's going to give his speeches. Mark Sims, Vacation Pitfalls, Mark Sims.
And as your timer, please make sure that, or excuse me, as your coordinator, please make sure that Marcia's is.
Thank you, Karen. We are vacation deprived in this pandemic era. And that's a shame because they are so necessary. And when I think back on my life, I've had different types of vacations, some with groups with similar interest, some solo. But what comes to mind when I think of vacation is the old road trips as a child, going to places, going on trips with the family. These were a lot of fun, had great memories, and occasionally some pitfalls. One that comes to mind is a vacation we took in the early 70s, not long after Dad had got a new car. It was a huge green Oldsmobile. I think it had a 457 engine. It was the ultimate gas guzzler, and one of the last of its kind because the energy crisis hit and we all needed to be more fuel conscious. But it was Dad's pride and joy. So we're off on a road trip. And my father was a man who had many sterling characteristics. But one bad habit he had is tobacco. At least for a part of his life, he used every type of tobacco he could, including chewing tobacco. And it was nasty. It was gross. He would chew tobacco, and at some point you have to spit it out, and he would keep a cup in a car for that purpose. So think of this, a car trip with hazardous material, chewing tobacco, new car, 2 boys in the car. I think he figured out what's going to happen. At a gas station restaurant stop, my brother and I are fighting. We're pushing each other. We knock over the cup full of the chewing tobacco spit. Now, diplomatically, I let my brother tell Dad the bad news, and I'll never forget his reaction, seeing him from a distance. It was a great nonverbal. He threw both hands up in the air. He kicked forward as if he were kicking against the fates that had given him 2 such dense children. And fortunately, by the time he got to the car, we had cleaned up some of the mess, or I had, and by a miracle, it didn't leave any stain. That was tense for a moment. Now, speaking of the road trips, it seemed like we would drive and drive and drive, never get anywhere. The entire vacation would be driving. And so we would pull over from time to time to roadside parks for a little break. And on one of those occasions, I recall my mom encouraging my brother and I to get out, stretch our legs, walk around a little while. My brother protested. He was sleepy. He just wanted to stay in the car. And you know how irritable you can be when someone's messing with you and you're trying not to wake up. And in the most obnoxious baby talk voice I could possibly muster, I said something like, there, little boy, just get out now and you can sleep later. And it worked too well. I mean, brothers, sisters can irritate each other. They know each other inside out. And I hit on a nerve, and my brother started screaming about killing me. And he sounded serious. So fortunately, I ran out of the car first, ran near my mother, and stood insouciantly because I knew she would protect me from the death that probably would have been my fate. Now, after enough driving, we would usually go to a hotel and spend the night there. And I recall one evening, it was a little bit early to go to sleep, so we were watching TV. My brother found the Waltons on TV. And in the 70s, the Waltons was a nice family show about a financially challenged but close-knit family growing up in a rural area during the Great Depression. And that should have made my father at least feel familiar, because that pretty well described his childhood. But he didn't like that show. He would watch it with Mom, and he'd make fun of the characters. So my brother turned on the show. It was several minutes in process. We watched it, and then it must have been the world's most lame TV channel, because they repeated the show. I think our intent was to watch it to the point where we originally joined it, but we got to that point, kept on watching it. So basically, we watched the same show back to back. We were so bored. The next day, Dad mentions that the Waltons sure seemed to go on a long time, and we clued him in that we basically watched the same show twice. He came unglued, and for years later, he would exaggerate how we watched the Waltons for 3 or 4 consecutive hours. The time grew over the years, and he would widen his eyes to imitate how intently we watched the show. So that's just one of those things. It was at least funny at the time and funny in some of the retelling. Another really nice road trip we had one year was several of our families, our family and some aunts and uncles, their families, and our grandparents, because we were going to Houston to see a baseball game. And it was a multi-car road trip, obviously, with all these people. And we would vary the occupants of the individual cars. And in a car I was in, a beloved uncle was with me, Uncle Leon, and he could understand how children could get overlooked in adult conversation. Now, I had a new watch at the time, which for back then, before cell phones, people would wear watches to tell what time it was. This was a nice possession for me. So from time to time, Uncle Leon would compare our times. He'd ask me what time it was. Given the fact that the watches didn't work all that well then, they weren't as well constructed, maybe as nice as a nice watch would be. By a miracle, we would usually have the exact same time. Only him repeating that over and over, Mark, what time do you have? What time do you have? In a closed quarters on an extended road trip. At some point, the other occupants of the car, I think, wanted to kill both of us, or at least make us eat those watches. So to sum up, some of these stories maybe were a little more funny at the time than in the retelling, and they're tinged with sentimentality now because several of the participants have passed on. But these road trips were a great reminder, vacation pitfalls and all. Madam Toastmaster.
I'm going to go ahead and remind everyone that you can give your own comments to the speakers, Rob Giles and Mark Sims, in the chat at the bottom of the page. So go ahead and take a minute and do that. Okay. I'm going to call for a timers report. Marcia, did both of our speakers qualify?
So with Rob's speech being 6 to 8 minutes,
Uh-huh.
he was at 7:46. I wasn't for sure. So he was within,
Yes, he qualified. Mhm.
right? And Mark was 5 to 7, and he had 732.
Okay.
Oh,
Yeah. Mark didn't qualify.
Okay.
So that means that you don't have to vote for the best speaker because Rob qualified on time. So Mark just missed it
Hmm.
by 2 seconds.
Rob and I reversed roles tonight.
Yep, you did. Okay. Okay. All right, and at this time, we'll go ahead and go to our table topics portion of our meeting, the part of our meeting where the participant gets to answer a question at the spur of the moment. And our table topics master for tonight is John Vessels. John?
Oh, thank you, Karen. Tonight, I will be your table topic host. And the point of table topics is to learn to do spontaneous speaking. Somebody asks you a question at work, your boss, where do you want to be in 5 years and stuff. Table topics helps you hone those skills to be able to respond at the moment on reasonable answers. Make you sound good, and it doesn't get you shocked. So during table topics, I'll be asking some questions. You'll be given 1 to 2 minutes to answer that question. You must meet 1 minute, must not exceed 2.5 minutes to qualify for a ribbon. Also, you must use the word of the day, which is insouciance. And let's get started. So for the first, hey, Kim, you out there? All right, unmute yourself. Your question for tonight on the subject of desserts. Do you prefer cold desserts or cooked desserts? Go ahead.
and Kim, if you can, please make sure that you can see Marcia, your timer.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yep. Yes.
Well, I can answer that by saying it depends on my mood. Growing up, we did not have dessert every day, but usually we could find ice cream in the freezer. Occasionally there would be cookies. Of course, at the holiday time, we would have pies. Of course, at the holiday time, we're in insouciance. Right now, as I was thinking earlier, I would not mind some Cheesecake Factory cheesecake right now. So right now I could definitely go for some cheesecake. I would have to say that it just depends on my mood. Summertime, of course, you're probably going to find more ice cream, people having ice cream. Usually in the summer, you can find Brahms are doing a pretty good brisk business. As far as anything not frozen, it would have to probably be chocolate, something with chocolate. So I hope that answers your question, Mr. Table Topics Master.
It does. Thank you, Kim. My next person gonna be under attack is Miss Marcia. So will Dagan, will you time Marcia or something for me, please? Or not?
I'm ready. I'm ready.
Oh, okay, thank you. So, Marcia, cake or pie, and why?
Ooh. See. Cake. All day, every day, cake. Why? Because that's the one thing I like to bake are cakes. My mom would bake at your birthday a 4-layer checkerboard cake. It would be lemon and chocolate. And then for the holidays, she would bake a rum cake. So I just grew up on cakes. I love cakes. The texture of the cakes. I haven't mastered the 4-layer cake. It's more bundt cakes. And just the shape of it, the slice of it, you can cheat with a bundt cake, right? Because when you slice it, that's a decent size. So you don't feel piggish if you go back and you get a second slice, right? They're just tasty to me versus a pie. You have to get that little small square, a little slice, and it's just pies sometimes are kind of like just so-so kind of dessert. Not too decadent. Definitely a chocolate fudge cake, quite decadent, moist. I learned from an ex-boyfriend, his grandmother taught me a secret I'll share with you, to add milk instead of water. Yeah, to make it really moist. So yes, that's why I enjoy cakes. And so I'm not too insouciant. Back to you, tabletop master.
Thank you, Marcia. Karen, you brought up the theme, so let's see what you got. If you could only have one dessert for the rest of your life, what would it be?
If I could only have one dessert for the rest of my life, what would it be? I think the dessert would be the one that I first made by myself when I was a kid, probably I think about a teenager, and that was apple pie. And I believe it was an oil crust. I made it the crust and everything. So I think that would be what I would like. But you have to use cooking apples. Red Delicious apples aren't the kind of apples that you would use for a pie. You can use Granny Smith apples because they'll bake. And you have your cinnamon and your sugar, and you slice up your apples and stir them up, and you can make your crust. Make that with your cold water and your salt and flour, and you can pat it in or roll it out. And you also make the top crust. You don't have to cook the crust for an apple pie, but it also makes a very good. Feel your crust. You put the crust on top, the top crust on it, and you don't have to flute the sides. You can use a fork around the outside of the pie, and you put it in the oven and cook it. And be sure you put a sheet pan underneath it so it doesn't make a mess. So if I needed what I'd like the most favorite dessert, apple pie.
Thank you, Karen. Next question. Mr. Sims, will you mind doing one for me?
Ready?
Is cookie a dessert?
Yes, cookie is a dessert. And actually, when you ask the question about one dessert for life, I don't know if I can make a clear decision, but chocolate chip cookies would be way up there. I would hate not to have them. And actually, in addition to that, at the Tom Thumb, where I go grocery shopping at sometimes, they have these cookies that have a bunch of M&Ms baked into them that are delicious. And on top of that, just the old-fashioned Oreo cookies, although the double stuffed ones are really, really good. So I'm not insouciant about those types of treats. They're great. I've put them in or had them for lunch numerous times. And actually kind of a bad habit, but while I am working at home and I'm closer to my snack supply, I'll usually end up most lunches with a cookie, whether I need it or not. comfort myself by saying, well, it's just one, but I have just one several times a day. So cookie is definitely a dessert. Mr. Table Topics Master.
Hey, thank you, Mark. So, Demetra, would you like to do a question? Yep. Okay, unmute yourself.
Of course, yes. I forgot to mute myself.
Okay, that's cool. So, can you think of a healthy dessert, and what would it be?
Well, I know that right now a lot of people try to switch to healthy eating, and I am not an exception. What I typically try to do is that I try to substitute so-called bad foods with healthy foods. For instance, for desserts, if I want to cook something, I substitute sugar with applesauce. You may not get the same taste, the same consistency, but on the other hand, you will reduce the amount of sugar you eat on the regular basis. And I have that idea in my mind whenever I cook something. So I know that I can substitute bad things or bad foods to good things. And also, what I try to do is that I don't typically buy things at the supermarket because whenever I buy something, regardless of the type of the dessert, whenever I see the list of ingredients, it makes me feel anxious. And I think even if you use regular products and cook at home your desserts, whatever, it's pie, cookies, or whatever you like, it will be much healthier and more delicious. I'm not insouciate about the calories because I typically try to balance my diet. So from time to time, small little dessert is okay. But overall, I think it is a great idea for everybody to be concerned about what we eat and try to make our desserts as healthy as possible. Thank you.
Thank you, Demetra. That was great. Lynn, do you want to do one?
Hi.
You don't have to. You can say no. I don't mind. I just want to know if you wanted to try one.
Sure, why not? That maybe will be a little bit nervous because I'm not a native speaker here. Okay, so a dessert for me in my concept, and it would be Chinese dessert, which give me I will feel more comfortable to have a Chinese dessert. Probably in most of Chinese people's mind, maybe they will think American style dessert is too sweet for them to digest or to afford for not being getting some weight, because try to see the favorite dessert for me is just cake and all kinds of cake, but it's just much less sugar. I will say that, not offended, just that's my opinion. Back to you, table, Mr. Table.
Thank you. That's good, Lynn.
Sorry.
No, you're fine. Thank you. And take a shot at it. That's good. Great. Thank you very much. And so now that's going to be end of our table topics portion of the meeting tonight. Thank you for everybody that participated, including our guest. And I'd like to call now for a timers report. So Marcia, did everyone qualify on time?
Everyone did except Lynn. She missed it by 2 seconds.
Okay, cool. And Rob, did everybody use the word of the day?
The following people did not use the word of the day: Karen Lee and Lynn J.
Okay.
Everybody else uses the word of the day. So that would be Kim Crandall, Marsha Collins, Mark Sims, and Dmitro Kusenko. Maybe leaving a K out there, but I'm gonna.
Okay. So, well, Rob gave you the list of the eligible participants for your vote tonight. So if you would take a minute and send your vote by private chat to, who is our vote counter? Sorry.
Rob Giles, please.
Rob. Rob Giles. And now I'd like to go ahead. Karen, did you have anything else you'd like to add tonight, or you can move to evaluator?
Go ahead and move to the evaluator.
Okay. So for the evaluation portion of our meeting tonight, our general evaluator is Dagan Newland. So Dagan, have a good night.
Okay, I think I will have a good night. Thank you. All right, so my dog said start barking, so sorry about that. So as general evaluator, my duty is to evaluate the meeting as a whole, and to also call upon the duty holders to give their reports, and also call upon the evaluators to evaluate the prepared speeches. So we will get into the evaluations first, and our first evaluator tonight is going to be Lee King, who was evaluating Rob Giles' speech. So Lee, take it away.
Good evening, fellow Toastmasters, guests, and especially Rob. A very good speech this evening, very insightful, and definitely something that many of us can give thought to. I will point out a few things that you did well, a couple of things that you might want to consider in the future, and finally, one thing that I thought you did very well for this evening. First, you got the audience engaged right away by asking questions. And that's a great way to really pull in your audience and get them interested in what you have to say. Your content was very good this evening. Everybody could relate to it. It is a very relevant topic for today's time. And everybody's got an opinion on it. They may not feel the same as you do. They may feel differently. But I felt like your speech was constructive and you gave good reasons why you have your feelings. And then finally, I thought that this evening you did use good vocal variety. You asked questions, you slowed your speech up when you were asking a question, you'd sped up during other times, and that worked very well for you, especially when it came to timing. The one thing that I would really suggest that perhaps you consider in the future would be that you support your information with a little more outside factual information. So perhaps while you were talking about how Trump right now does not have Twitter or Facebook or other social media platforms because of speech, and that he's a private citizen, perhaps consider looking into how many other private citizens have lost privileges because of speech or violations of the terms of agreement. And that might give us a better perspective. I don't really know. So I don't know if Trump and some of his associates were perhaps unfairly prosecuted in this case. Maybe they were more singled out than other private citizens. Maybe not, I don't know. So I would suggest pulling in a little more outside research. So it's not all only your thoughts on something. But I think the thing that you did definitely the best was you made time. So congratulations. Back to you, Mr. General Evaluator.
Sorry, that's me. So our next evaluator is going to be Mark Schroeder, who is evaluating Mark Sims' speech. So Mark, take it away.
Fellow Toastmasters, guests, and especially you, Mark. enjoyed your speech this evening on vacations. I'm going to do my evaluation kind of via a 3-2-1, where I talk about 3 things you did well, 2 things to improve on, and 1 especially wonderful thing, except I'm going to do 4-3-2 because I always like to give an extra 10%. All right, so what I'm going to do, we're going to start off with the fact that I loved the descriptive nature of the speech that you had in terms of the descriptive text, the descriptive language that you used, the Oldsmobile. Who calls it an Oldsmobile? Even we had that. My dad called it an Olds occasionally, but when it was important, it was an Oldsmobile. And the 357, yeah, I can't remember if you said 357 or 457, but I remember those engines. V8, we had one of those as well. Gas guzzler, you betcha, 100%. I remember your perfect description. Very, very good at bringing something into mind and bringing up a picture. The fact that your dad was a sterling character, we all know what that kind of thing would mean. Also, when you were referring to your dad and after the incident of knocking over the mess in the car, that he went out and was kind of kicking forward. We all got this feeling of looking from a distance at this man kicking forward while you're in the car trying to clean up. And just the visual, that you did a very good job of relating that visual to us, I thought. With regard to the final one on that topic, that would be, what time do you have? I have a lot of history of the what time do you have in my family, because when my wife is driving, I wait until we get out of the alley. And then it's, are we there yet? Wait another block or 2. Are we there yet? And we could be going a 9-hour drive. Are we there yet? I do that until I'm told to get out of the car, the second or maybe third time. Okay, so let's talk about a couple of things to maybe work on. What you did was very good. These were not things that you did poorly on, but they're things that were maybe missed opportunities. If I were you, I would have considered actually using a baby voice when you got to the baby voice section. You had a very good chance for vocal variety there, and as well for imitating your father during some of the discussions. So I thought that you could have incorporated some voices there to maybe bring the message home a little bit better. Third thing in that category, of course, is just a little bit the shaving off of 2 seconds of time. But finally, the 2 things that I thought that you did the best, it has to come down to the fact that you had a short amount of time. You made it through 4 stories in that short amount of time, minus maybe 2 seconds. You could have used that 2 additional seconds to shave back off. But that's a lot of information in a short amount of time. And you did a very good job of painting all of the pictures in our minds with your words, which is the best that you can do during a speech like this. So I thought you met all of your goals. Mr. General Evaluator.
All right, thank you, Mark. So now I will call upon a timer's report. So did everybody qualify on time? Timer?
Yes, sorry. They did.
Yes, it did? Okay.
Yes.
All right, so now please take a moment and vote for the best person who did the evaluation between Lee King or Mark Schroeder, and send it to Rob in the chat. Of course, if you have any comments for the evaluators as well, you can send those directly to them. But remember, send your vote to Rob on who's the best evaluator. I'll say, because now I will take a moment to evaluate the meeting as a whole. And of course, as we know, we just start a little late, but we were trying to get a few members in, especially some that had to fulfill a role. But we did have that taken care of just in case it didn't make it in. So that was always good. And that's what's really good about our group, is that everybody's willing to participate and cover roles that need to be filled. So it's always good to see as well. Other than that, I think we really had a really good meeting. With the speeches, both pretty good speeches from both Rob and Mark. They did really well in those, as well as our table topic master. John did a really good job, had really good questions. I think they were all easy questions and gave the opportunity for our guests to participate. So that's always good. Yeah, I was actually hoping I get one of those questions. I think I would be able to answer those myself. And the evaluators, both Mark and Lee, you did really great evaluations. You told us how you want to evaluate, which is always good up front. And you gave us, what you liked and what they could improve on and gave examples. So that's always really good because, both of y'all are very seasoned Toastmasters. So you really don't have any issues with that. So otherwise, I think we did a pretty good meeting. So I will now move into our duty holders. And our first duty holder, I guess it's going to be me, the Poster Bell. And throughout the meeting, obviously that's a little more difficult during Zoom calls, but I didn't really see anything. I did see, hand movements. I did see, they weren't distracting. I didn't see anybody, playing with their glasses or anything like that at the time of speaking. Or I could poke at some people that were just listening in. But other than that, for speaking bits, I think everybody did really good with posture. So we'll move on to our next duty holder, which is going to be our all counter as Lee King. So Lee King can give us your report as all counter.
Yes, overall, great job this evening. I just wanted to point out a couple of things. First, Marcia, during her table topic, I think it's worth mentioning that she did use a crutch word, I thought, very appropriately when she was describing cake versus pie. And she said, well, cake, there's cake, and then, well, there's pie. And cake is, kind of, and I thought that actually added to her speech. It wasn't, they were crutch words, but it added to her speech. So used in that context, I did not find them distracting, but I just wanted to point that out because I think sometimes just as all counters, sometimes we tend to automatically think of anytime we hear a crutch word, it sounds like a crutch word, we're already knocking the person down, and sometimes it is appropriate. So I did want to point that out. Although I did catch one other that was used as a filler word in her table topic. Also noticed Dimitro and Lynn also use several uhs or ums within their speeches. Other than that, everything else went really well tonight. Back to you, Mr. General Evaluator.
All right, thank you, Lee. So our next duty holder tonight is going to be the grammarian, which was filled by Rob Giles. So Rob Giles, can you please give us your report?
Thank you very much, Mr. General Evaluator. First, I want to mention the use of the word of the day. Congratulations to those who used it during table topics. I will say that 2 of the table topic contestants took a little change of it. So insouciance is a noun, and they both used an adjective, and I'm totally okay with that. I love when you can adjust things and actually use it appropriately. So good job. And again, that was Dimitro, and that was also Mark Sims. And I will add that Mark Sims, during his speech, threw in another version of insouciance, and he actually used an adverb, it's insouciantly. So good job with that, Mark. I appreciate that. Hopefully we'll use that word throughout the week and perhaps beyond. And hopefully we don't take an insouciance attitude toward it. I would say, as far as grammar is concerned, I didn't hear anything that was very egregious. I did hear some good phrases that partly Mark Schroeder already noted for Mark Sims during his speech: gas guzzler, sterling characteristics for his father. And he did use a phrase that was interesting because I never really heard anybody, and maybe I misheard it, but I thought he said blood uncle, which to me is interesting because most people will just say uncle if it's a blood uncle. And maybe I misinterpreted that or misheard it, but I thought that was interesting. It definitely made me think. So if that was your intent and that was the word that you used, then that was interesting. But you can shoot me a private chat if that was different than that, Mark. Kim, you used brisk business phrase. And then Mark Schroeder, when you're evaluating Mark Sims, you said painting pictures in our mind. And I thought that was a nice alliteration and a good phrase for us to bring out the imagination. Other than that, I thought everybody did a fine job. Again, I didn't hear anything that was particularly egregious as far as grammar is concerned. I'm going to go back to Mr. General Evaluator.
All right, thank you, Rob. And you mentioned the blood uncle. That kind of makes perfect sense because one of my best friends that I've known since fifth grade, his kids call me uncle, but I'll say we're not blood. So anyway,
I actually meant beloved uncle.
All right, so I guess I'm going to wrap up my section of the meeting. So I'll now call a vote for the big three, which will be our Toastmaster, Karen Lee, our Table Topics Master, John Vessels, and me as General Evaluator, Dagan Newland. So please give your vote to Rob Giles in the private chat. Take a moment, then I will ask for our president to take over and give the his portion of the meeting. Mark Sims.
Thank you, Dagan. And for starters, I want to again welcome our guests tonight. And for both of our guests, we've obviously been meeting on Zoom for a long time. I believe the last in-person meeting we had was on March 12th, 2020. But to get an idea of where we would normally meet before and then after the pandemic, look at Rob Giles' screen because he has a background picture of the room we usually meet in. And if you look at the far left, you see a brown stage, which is where we usually stand on. You get to stand on an elevated stage, look at the crowd. And then just to the your left of Rob, you'll see a banner with a big T on it. And that is our club banner. So hopefully one of these days we will get to go back to that room and you can visit us there. For starters, I'd like to ask Dmytro Kusenko, please just tell us a little about yourself, what brings you to Toastmasters, and what can we do for you?
Good afternoon once again, everybody. My name is Dmytro and my last name is Kusenko. I used to be a member of United Communicators Toastmasters Club, which is in Arlington, Texas, but unfortunately pandemic disrupted my membership. So I decided to join another club since I moved to Dallas recently. And yes, I'm looking for a club which is pretty close to the place where I live and the place where I work. Currently, I'm a scientist at UT Southwestern Medical Center, and I'm working on developing different devices and other techniques to cure cancer.
Thank you. And it's a small world because years ago, I think in early 2009, for just a little while, I was a member of United Communicators because I was living in Arlington. I moved to Dallas in 2009. I actually moved back to Arlington a couple of years ago, but quite a while ago, I had some experience with United Communicators, and it at least encouraged me to continue with the Toastmasters program. So thank you for joining us tonight, and feel free to come back and visit us. And Lynn, please tell us, you've told us some about yourself, anything else you want to share, and what would you like to get out of Toastmasters?
Sure. Thank you, everyone. So I heard about Toastmasters from my supervisor, who used to be joining one of the Toastmasters in Texas. I'm not sure which one he joined. The reason he actually recommended to me was as a non-native speaker, I work as a BI developer, which in that position, I had to present a lot of reports, which our team did for all the end users in our company. So I kind of like reached out to him, and he was like, okay, why not you try this group? That should really help you on improving your presentation skill. So here I am. About myself, I grew up in China and I moved to United States last year, 2020. It was quite a challenge to me, and it was still has to adapt a lot of ways, lifestyles or foods and like cultures, communications. But I hope I'll get it one day. And yes, that is pretty much who I am. Thank you, Mark.
Thank you. And yes, this would be a great place to get a lot more experience in speaking, both getting to speak English and give presentations. Although you're probably not very impressed by the Chinese food in America since you're from China, but thank you both for visiting tonight. Please do come back and visit. If you'd like to join us, we'd be very pleased to have you as a member, because we're always wanting to bring in new members, new stories, new experiences. That helps us, and we'd like to help you. I'd like to also remind everyone, as the club officers, and then anyone who's a member, if you've not had an opportunity to attend the Toastmasters Leadership Institute, TLI, to please do so online. I think Mary Gomez sent out an email today noting, I think sometime mid to late February was the last opportunity. So please do that. It's usually fun. I mean, it's an enthusiastic group, even with the limitations of doing it on Zoom, and you learn some things also about the role that you're performing as officer. And Rob, is there anything else you want to share about the club contest? What would you remind me what day it was?
So we decided that it was going to be the first Thursday in March, and I believe that that is the 4th.
Yes, it is. Okay.
So March 4th, it's going to be International Speech Contest and Table Topics Speech Contest. International Speech Contest is pretty much a speech about anything. Most of the ones that end up winning are speeches that are motivational or inspirational, but they really can be about anything. And they can be a combination of humorous and inspirational. So it's whatever you want to go after in that regard. And the table topics is just like what we did tonight. It's a little more formal, but there's only one topic question, and every contestant answers that same topic question. However, they don't see what the other contestants have answered. So they'll be in a different separate breakout room while the current people are speaking as far as table topics are concerned. And if we have a winner, or we have somebody who we designate as our representative, then they will move on to the area contest. It's area 33. And that contest, I believe it is March 20th, if I remember right. It's a Saturday. And these are all Zoom. So we can enjoy Zoom a little bit more. And from there, it goes on to the division contest. But yes, International Speech Contest, Table Topics Contest. We are looking to see if anybody would be interested in being the contest master. And that's similar to being the Toastmaster for the evening. They are the host of the contest. And then the contest chair, which basically organizes everything. Contest chair generally would get the contest master and get all the judges and get everybody all set for the contest. So if anybody's interested in either of those things, then reach out to me, please.
Do we have a script for contest master?
There is a script, yes.
I can give that a try.
Okay, great, great.
Okay.
All right, I will send that your way. I'll pull that and send it your way, and we can go from there.
Okay, awesome. And And Mark Schroeder sent out an email to everyone notifying that he had told Zonas that it's still going to be a while. And the response you got from Corey, he said, hopefully we'll still be here when
Yeah,
you come back.
actually, in fact, that email did not go out to everyone. It went out to the officers,
Okay.
but I was going to mention it tonight. Do you want me to say something about it real
Well,
quick?
yes, please do. Thank you.
Okay. So I did actually send out something to the officers this afternoon because I've been in contact with the manager at Ozona Grill where we normally meet. Just the photo that Rob has behind him is interesting, but I think this photo is probably a little more indicative. You can see our normal environment. This is kind of the opposite angle from what Rob was showing because there's the banner. Imagine, if you will, Rob's picture is camera to the right of these people, but there's the raised stage that we have in our room normally. We have a few other photos like this, but interestingly enough, most of the photos, they crop it right about at this line so that you don't actually see we're on stage as opposed to just on a flat floor. But anyway, I did talk with those owners and let them know that it's still, Dallas is still red, it's still not safe. And with the other variants coming into town, it's going to be a little while. Hopefully we can all get our vaccine soon and maybe look at starting to come back into the restaurant to do our meetings. And the Ozona Grill has got an inside portion and they've got a large area outdoors that's patio. I'm sure it's not super filled when it's like 35 degrees outside, but on the other hand, if they get up to about 50 to 60, they'll have a lot of people that they'll stay outside. And he did say that they were surviving based on people who were out using the patio. Obviously, people are considering outside to be safer than indoors. So the good news is they're still sticking with us. So that's good. Mark, can I do a couple other things while I've got it?
For it.
Okay, one other thing for our guests, I wanted to mention for our guests, this is our website again, DallasSocialToastmasters.com. You may have already found it or seen it, but it's DallasSocialToastmasters.com. This first column under visitors and guests, you will see that there is a guest packet online link down here. And the guest packet link will take you to several things that used to be part of our physical handout that we would give people. We were working on this so that we didn't have to waste the paper even before COVID started, but we completed it now. And so this contains some of the materials that we would normally have given you in person. The ones that are probably the most interesting, there's some general ones here about Toastmasters in the program. There's a Pathways Quick Start, but this Pathways and Core Competencies lists the 11 paths that you would be choosing from as a member. When you join, you get to pick one of the 11 paths to start on. There'll be a short survey, I guess you could say, or questionnaire that will give you 3 that appear to be your top 3 in terms of your interest. You can still pick any of the 11, and I think it may be up to 12 now. There may be one that's not in this document. I may need to get another copy of this. But this does describe what the 11 paths are that are certainly available. And when you go to subsequent pages, let's see, actually each one of these subsequent pages picks on one of the topics and describes it in more detail. So this is at least a 13-page document probably describing each of the 11 paths plus some additional information. So that's a good resource to start looking at. And the other one that is here interesting is we do also have a membership application out here that you can look at, and this can be filled out online and then saved or printed as necessary. You would probably need to download a copy, at least I would recommend downloading a copy, but this one can be filled in once you download it, and so you can save it and mail it to us, and we can take care of everything electronically should you be interested in becoming a member. And did I have anything else? I think that was it. I did want to, as I say, the third one was I wanted to talk about the fact that Ozonas is hanging in with us. They've been a good friend. We've been with them for many, many years, and they appreciate us. And at this point, we have no choice but to appreciate them. I would love to get back there as soon as we can.
Okay, thank you. And yeah, it's very wise for us to not be starting back up yet because people are still dying. hopefully the vaccines get distributed quickly. Before we go to our winners of the competitions, does anyone else have an announcement?
Just one quick shameless plug, and that is for my member orientation on Saturdays, including this coming Saturday at 10 a.m. And I will send out an email either this evening or tomorrow morning with the Zoom information, but it's also on our calendar. And I probably should have had Mark go in there, but we can refrain from that at this point.
Thank you. And Rob, would you tell us who the winners are?
I was waiting for this. Thank you so much. Mainly for this first one. And this is, and maybe you can't see it, maybe turn off but this is best speaker, and that goes to yours truly. It says, you know, it was a little role reversal, but I think it would have been a role reversal for any other competitor that I was going against. The next one is the best table topics. We had some great table topics contestants, some great answers. The winner, here's the ribbon. I don't know if you can see, it's green. And this one goes to Dimitro. Well done, well done. The next winner is one of our evaluators. We had 2 good evaluations. And the winner for our evaluators goes to, it's a blue ribbon if you can't see it, but this one goes to Mr. Mark Schroeder. And finally, best of the big 3. And again, that was our Toastmaster, Topic Master, and General Evaluator. But tonight, as normal, there can be only one, and the best of the big 3 goes to our Topic Master, Mr. John Vessels. Back to you, Mr.
Thank
President.
you, Rob. Yes.
Just a quick one, since he mentioned it, I'll be happy to show you where that is.
Awesome.
If you're interested in the information, the best place probably, let's see, this is from our homepage. From our homepage, there's a meetings link right here. Meetings link is not what I want, sorry. Go to the homepage, go to the members section, and then go to calendar. And you will find we have the members orientations here. Let's see, we would be on the 30th. If you just click on it, you'll see all of the information. All right, that's it.
Thank you. Thank you all. And everyone have a great weekend.
You too. Good night.
All right, as facilitator, I will stop the meeting in 3, 2,